सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। I welcome you all with my love and respects. Today we will understand the truth of Satsanga. There is a very beautiful verse by Shankara. Satsangatve nitsangatvam nitsangatve nirmohatvam nirmohatve nischaladatvam nischaladatve jivan mukti. Satsanga directly leads to Jivan Mukti, a straight method to Jivan Mukti. If I have to define Satsanga, I can define in three ways. The ultimate Satsanga is just being with the Sat, your own Atman, unclutching. Be unclutched and be with your Atman. Be with your Sat. That is the first level, ultimate Satsanga. Whenever you are not able to do that, whenever you are not able to be in that space, then the second level Satsanga is be with the words of a person who constantly drives you towards the Sat, who is constantly reminding you to be unclutched. Please understand. Read the books which tells you not to waste your time in just reading the books. Listen to the words of a person who constantly reminds you not to just waste time in listening to the words. The first level of Satsanga is being with your own self, Sat, by unclutching. The second level is being with the words, being with a being who constantly asks you to be in being. Being with the words of a person who constantly tells you to go beyond words. Being with the being who reminds you to be in your being. Means Master's presence. The first level Satsanga is to be unclutched and be with yourself. Whenever you can't, the second level Satsanga is be always, whatever possible way, whether it is his physical presence or listening to his words or meditating, remembering his leelas or just internalizing his words through books. All this can come put together as Satsanga with Master, who constantly puts you in the ultimate Satsanga. Please understand, the first level of Satsanga is being with yourself, being unclutched. The second level of Satsanga is being with a being who constantly reminds you to be in being. There is a beautiful example used in Vedanta. It's called Pramarakita Nyaya. A bee will pick up a worm, put it in small mud shell made by it, and constantly sit on the gate of the mud shell and create the sound, the Brahmi sound. That is why the Mahamantra Dhyana is called as Brahmi Dhyana. The original Sanskrit word for the meditation is Brahmi. But in Pali, in Buddhism, it became Mahamantra. In Sanskrit, in the Tantra tradition, it's called Brahmi Dhyana. Just intensely humming. Brahmi means bee. Just like bee, because you create sound, it's called Brahmi Dhyana. That bee sits in the edge, corner, gateway of that small mud shell and starts creating intense sound. Just by the power of that sound, a worm becomes bee. Same way, the hen sits on the egg. Just by the physical heat, presence of the hen, egg becomes chicken. Just if a hen sits on the egg, the breathing space, the breathing energy, the prana sarira's heat, just that makes the egg into chicken. The magara, crocodile, fish, all these jivas, they lay the egg, the banks of the river, close it with mud, just by the constant remembrance, hatches the egg. Please understand. The Brahmi, bee, makes worm into bee by the sound, teachings. The hen makes the egg into chicken by the physical presence, touch, initiation. Keeping in the breathing space and initiation, the physical touch. Magara, crocodile, tortoise, fish, all of them hatch the egg and make the egg into fish or crocodile or tortoise just by remembrance. Master hatches you through all these three. Through his teachings, first level. Through the initiation, second level. Through constant remembrance of you, wherever you are, he hatches you into a new being. He makes you into very his self. First, the words, teachings, then the touch, sparsha, initiation, then wherever you are, because constantly you are connected to him, how you remember him, he goes on remembering you. I can see very clearly. Millions of people are living inside this body. Whoever is remembering, they are all living inside this body. Each cell is responding independently to all the people who are remembering this body. That is why the enlightened beings, the incarnations, will be available in the form of Divya Sarira even after they leave the body. When they give initiation to a disciple, they take a vow. Till you become enlightened, I will be available to you even if I leave the body. That is why when the masters leave the body, their Divya Sarira will be available in Aksharadama. Means the imperishable space. Aksharadama is the gateway of Kshara and Akshara, perishable and non-perishable. It is the gateway of form and formlessness. It is the gateway of ice and water. Water is formless, ice is form. So where both of them are touching, that is the space called Aksharadama. We call it Shambhala. All enlightened beings, all incarnations, till all their disciples achieve enlightenment, reside in Aksharadama, in the form of Divya Sarira. Their Divya Sarira is available. Please understand. That is why, if you are initiated by an enlightened Sadguru or incarnation, you don't need another one master. Just connecting with that master is enough. Maybe sometime that master himself will guide you to a living master if required. If he guides, catch the living master. If you don't get guidance from him, don't worry, he himself will take care. Just retain the strong Vidarka with him, that's all. As long as the disciples are liberated, they will be available in Aksharadama. If they are incarnations, they take a vow not only to liberate their disciples, and they create few masters on the planet Earth among their disciples, enlightened masters, and they take a vow, all the disciples initiated by their disciples till they became enlightened, they will be available in the Aksharadama. As far as my experience goes, Krishna and Buddha have taken the vow of enlightening 7 generations of their disciples. That is why still they are available. Still they are verily available. Of course, Shirdi Sai Baba, Ramakrishna, Ramana Maharishi, Mahavatar Baba, these are some other masters I can name, still available in Aksharadama to attend your calls and needs and your prayers. Still they are available online. All they need is just you calling, nothing else. The power of satsanga is so strong, it just makes you sat. Please understand, whatever you remember, whatever you hear becomes part of you, even if you try to avoid. That is why Ramakrishna again and again says, during the spiritual growth time, don't try to have the heroism of going and attacking or spending time with negative people and trying to justify, trying to fight with them and change their opinion. Don't do. Just don't listen. That is the best way. Understand? Ramakrishna says, when a banyan tree is sprouting and growing, even a small goat can destroy it. But if it grows, even elephant cannot do anything. You can tie the elephant in the tree, nothing can be done. But when you are growing, you are just a sapling, plant. A small goat can come and spend half an hour with you and destroy your growth. Don't allow that to happen. Don't think, no, I'll face him, I'll change his logic. No, negativity is sometimes more appealing to you than positive experience, because 80% of you is still in unconscious. I could see during this scandal, so many wonderful disciples, possibility of getting enlightened. They would have just flowered into enlightenment. Just 1 or 2 sessions with unconscious negative people, enough. They were able to destroy the possibility of enlightenment, the very root of Vidarka. Understand? Whenever Krishna says very beautifully, he gives freedom for enlightened beings to do anything. See, enlightened beings have no rule. They can do anything. But he puts one restriction on enlightened beings. They have no right to destroy anybody's faith on anything, even if it is low, dull, muda. He says, very word, even it is a foolish faith. if somebody has a faith on a small stone, the corner of the village, and does puja to that everything, or sacrifices goat, from the viewpoint of an enlightened being, it is very third rate. How can God ask for his own child, a goat? How can animal sacrifice be allowed? It's such a foolishness. I should destroy his faith. Krishna says no. He says no. Even if it is very low level form of faith, you have no right to destroy it. He says, through that, they will come step by step, higher and higher, will reach me. Even if it is a muda, the foolishness, superstitious worship, because of their attitude of worshipping, I myself accept that worship in different forms, the names in which they are calling me. That is why Ramakrishna, even after becoming enlightened, realizing his avataric mission, establishing a group of sannyas disciples, he says, I know I cannot accept animal sacrifice, but I will not stop the animal sacrifice in Kali temple, where he is a priest, he is a chief priest and he is the practically owner. His word is a direct word of Kali Devi in Dakshineshwar Kali temple. If he wanted, in one word, he could have stopped the animal sacrifice. He says, no, I will not disturb their faith. It may not be right, it may not lead them to enlightenment, it may not be right as per my experience, it may not give them the ultimate, but I have no right to destroy anybody's faith, even if it is superstitious. Krishna says, even enlightened beings have no right to destroy somebody's faith, even if it is lowest form. Even if enlightened beings have no right to destroy the lowest form of a faith, what right the lowest fellows have to destroy the faith on enlightened beings? They do not know in what kind of mess they are getting into. Destroying the faith on an enlightened being is the worst conspiracy against the cosmos. I heard there are a few ex-disciples claiming that they are enlightened just a few days before I got the news. I said, that's great. If they are, then they should have created their mission, not that they will be hurting my mission. See, when I grew, when I felt I am much more, I have experienced more, I am growing more, I did not destroy Ramakrishna mission, where I started growing. I just started creating my mission, that's all. When a real growth happens, whether as an enlightenment or realization or experience, you will create your mission, that's all. I just created Nityananda mission. I did not go and spend my time or waste my time in destroying Ramakrishna mission or catching all the Ramakrishna mission disciples and telling them this is what happens there, that is what happens there, destroying their faith. No. Understand, when spiritual growth or enlightenment happens to you, this is the scale. You will create your mission. You will never destroy somebody's faith on anybody, on anything else, even if it is lowest form. Destroying somebody's faith on Brahmajnana or anything which leads towards the Brahmajnana is Brahmahadya dosha. Because that person would have become Brahman, would have become enlightened, but you interfered, vomited your ideas, your logic, your things, and destroyed his faith and vidarka, trust. What right you have? No. And that is Brahmahadya dosha. Even if they don't believe, I go on promoting the cosmic dharma, go on promoting the spiritual truths, even if they believe that I don't live what I teach, me and my mission is worthy of living just because what we are teaching to the world. And Cosmos stands by me and supports me just because what I teach to the world, what I share with the world. Of course, when they try to conspire against the spiritual mission and disturb people's vidarka towards the master or the mission, naturally it's a conspiracy against the Cosmos, and Cosmos is alive, it will respond. Understand? Still Cosmos is alive. That is why still we are happening in the planet Earth. We are not fools to come to planet Earth without enough of protection mechanism, without enough of security mechanism, without enough of defense mechanism. Understand? Cosmos is still alive. Cosmos is taking care. Cosmos will respond to people who are trying to destroy the faith, sincerity, intensity and vidarka of the people in any way. In any way. Understand? Sometimes people come and tell me, Swamiji, when you were raising the flag, there was a Garuda bird which was there flying and blessing, swans were there. I know they were there for their job, but I'll never destroy the faith. See now, just now that bird dropped, flap. See, he was doing his job, but when you have faith that you are celebrating my presence, enjoy it, that's all. That's all, nothing else. And we don't need to be so logical. And why did he do? Did he really come as incarnation of some Rishi, Siddha, or he was just doing something casual and it happened? If you just feel that he is a Siddha and he is here for Swamiji's presence and he is dropping something out of his gratitude, and if that makes you feel more happy and create vidarka, just enjoy that. That is the truth. Forget about everything else. Every tree, every ant, every leaf which is here for my presence. It is not accident, it is incident. Once, Ramanuja, after staying so many days in Tirupati, Tirumala, on the hills, gets ready for his pilgrimage, packs his bags and food, walks all the way, full day. Evening they reach the downhill and they open their food for eating. They found a lot of ants in the food. The disciples have started cleaning all the ants. Ramanuja just stopped. No, don't do. He just packed the whole food safely, not leaving one ant, walked back all the way uphill, without food, all the way uphill, especially in the night. All the disciples are thinking, we know he's little crazy. Why is he doing this? Has he gone completely crazy? So they were all wondering, but nothing can be done. Those days disciples have to completely follow the master. So they all just mocked. After going to the top of the hill again, he opened the food And he said, now leave the ants here, because we don't know how many janmas they meditated and did punya to take birth in the presence of Tirumala, the energy field of Venkateshwara, to be there. We have no right to take them out of this energy field and leave them somewhere else. Understand? Even when masters became deities, Siddhas come to live around in their presence. When deity becomes masters, naturally all the Siddhas, all the high level beings come to live around them. Ramana Maharshi says to their disciples, don't touch a single tree, don't touch a single animal here. There was an incident. Ramana Maharshi had a pet dog. Every day it will come. When he eats, he will give one handful of food in his leaf itself, and the dog will eat and go. One day, one devotee, orthodox devotee, he was so angry, he said, how dare you put your mouth in Bhagavan's leaf and eat the food? It is disrespect. The dog was so depressed. That fellow just went and jumped into the well and committed suicide, died. When Bhagavan was told this information, his eyes became watery, and he called the disciple and said, you don't know what you did. He is a Siddha Purusha, was living around me for my presence. Then he says, do not touch a single tree, do not touch a single animal living around in this area. They are all here for my satsanga. He says, the Yoga Prashta means people who are almost about to get enlightened, but body was lost due to some reason. They come down as this kind of animals, and plants live in the presence of the master and get liberated in a very short span, without wasting the time in taking the human body, taking the human birth. Because when you take human birth, human mind comes. With human mind, always the possibility of taking diversion exists. Even after associating with the master for a long time, till the ultimate enlightenment happens, there is always the danger of dropping, taking diversion, going back, or U-turn. So these Siddhas, Yoga Purushas, Ishvara Kotis, they do not want to miss satsanga. They take the animal body and plant body and land in the planet Earth and be around the masters, get liberated. Satsanga is so important. Whatever you hear constantly, whatever you see constantly becomes part of you. That is why I tell you, just like how you are very careful about what you eat. You don't drink poison. Just say, no, I'll defy poison. I'll just drink and prove the logic of the poison is wrong. No. So don't try to fight with poison in a foolish way by drinking it. Same way, don't try to fight with the negative people, unconscious people, by letting them near you. I have seen how many people have missed it, lost the master and spiritual life and ultimately enlightenment, just because of these few unconscious people, negative people. So don't miss it. Don't miss it. Don't have negative company, dussanga, and constantly try to have satsanga, either by being in the physical presence of the master or by constantly listening to his. Now you have web TV. I am alive, available 24/7. Anandeshwara is available. Constantly you have satsanga. So have satsanga in your life, you will achieve Jivan Mukti. That is the essence I wanted to share with you all. Let you all have satsanga. Now you can have satsanga from wherever you are. The web TV is available. Discourses are available in YouTube continuously. The Brahmi, bee, making the worm into bee, is directly sitting with the master and listening to his words. Hen, sitting on the egg and hatching the egg and making the chicken, is master directly working on you, doing the process. Living enlightenment process or inner awakening, doing this process. Master remembering you and you remembering him, like a fish and tortoise remembering the eggs and hatching. That is what is e-satsanga. Through web TV. Web TV does the job of fish and tortoise. How they hatch the egg, the same thing is done through the web TV. So constantly be in the satsanga. You will remember me, I will remember you. You will become enlightened. Let you all have satsanga, achieve and radiate enlightenment. Let you all have achieve, experience, express, live, radiate the eternal bliss, Nityananda. Thank you.